there's a frequent reference to an exception under HIPAA that people typically misunderstand, thinking that they're going to be free to not provide access. But if you read the details of that in the regulation, and I'll provide that to you, it does not cover, the exception does not apply to these fitness evaluations. In my view, we are not going to be able to bar access, with one exception. HIPAA does provide that you can redact information provided by third-party sources with an expectation of confidentiality. So if you have a collateral source, or let's say it this way, you have information that comes from the employer that you're not entitled to give, it's from third-party sources, you can redact those portions. You don't have to give them all the information that the employer gave you. The employer may have to do that, but let them work it out. But I don't think you're going to be able to bar access to their MMPI-2 results or the clinical notes that you take from your fitness for duty evaluation. I just don't think you're going to be successful. I understand that you're going to initially want to try, and I think you're right to defer those questions to the to the employer, but I just think it's a losing battle, because I don't think that we have an exception for the fitness for duty evaluation under HIPAA. And I wish I could locate that right now, but I would waste too much time to do so, given the limited time we have. So in determining what should go into your report, keep in mind that there are collective bargaining agreements, or CBAs, agency policy, or there may be law that restrict the report content in the absence of specific authorization. Pettis v. Cole is one very good example of that. And that HIPAA does provide some guidance regarding this with respect to the minimum necessary provision. A central aspect of the privacy rule in HIPAA is the principle of minimum necessary use and disclosure. A covered entity must make reasonable efforts to use, disclose, and request, disclose, and request only the minimum amount of protected health information needed to accomplish the intended purpose of the use, disclosure, or request. You recall yesterday we were talking about my not sending to a healthcare provider that disclosure form when I've already determined that they're unqualified for non-medical reasons. I believe that that's consistent with the minimum necessary rule. We are obligated under the law to not use, disclose, or request more than the minimum information necessary. A covered entity must develop and implement policies and procedures to reasonably limit uses and disclosures to the minimum necessary. So that's all spelled out under HIPAA.